Hey everyone. So I'm just going to quickly review with you the notes for lesson 6 today. So you have an idea what you're doing when you go to do your independent or group work. So a polygon we need to remember is a figure with at least 3 straight sides and angles, and typically 5 or more. Okay, so usually it has 5 or more sides, but it needs to have at least 3 straight sides in order to be considered a polygon. So let's get into this lesson. So lesson 2.6 is really important, as I discussed in the video that we took from Envisions. So the coordinates of the vertices of a polygon on the coordinate plane can be used to find the lengths of the sides of the polygon and its perimeter. So if you were at a dig site, for example, and you were acting as an archaeologist and you wanted to see how much rope you need, just like the example one and try it video, what you would need to do is exactly the math that we are going to do here. So you need to take note from lesson 5. If your points are in the same quadrant, you must subtract the absolute value to find the distance. And if your points are in a different quadrant, you add the absolute values together. So let's look at this example right here, okay? And this is a great review for the test as well, so pay close attention here. You really want to make sure you understand this concept. So what is the perimeter in units of polygon A, B, C, D, E, and F? And as you can see here, this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, okay? So you know for a fact that this is a polygon. Okay, you can use the counting method to double check your work if you would like to count how many spaces there are, if assuming this was a coordinate plane right here. Okay, so let's take a look at what we do here in order to solve for this question. Okay, we have coordinates 1, 3 and 4, 3. Here, what we do is we need to subtract the absolute value because, as we mentioned up here, if your points are in the same quadrant, you subtract the absolute values to find the distance. As you can see, C and D are both in quadrant 1. So we do 4, the absolute value of 4, minus the absolute value of 1, and that would get us 4 minus 1, which is 3. And then we continue this process all the way down. So we have D and E. As you can see, coordinates D, 4, 3 is in quadrant 1, whereas point E is in quadrant 4, which means you must add because they are in different quadrants. So we find the absolute value of 3 plus the absolute value of negative 4, which gets us 3 plus 4, which is 7, as you can see here, because we are looking at the y coordinate here. The y coordinate for D is 3, and the y coordinate for E is negative 4. So that's why we did 3, the absolute value of 3 plus the absolute value of negative 4, which is 3 plus 4, which equals 0. Now we go on to do this for E and F. Absolute value of 4 plus absolute value of negative 2, because E and F are in different quadrants, and that gets us 6. F and A are both in the same quadrant, so we must subtract. So we have negative 4 minus negative 1 in absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 4 is 4 minus the absolute value of negative 1, which is 1. So we have 4 minus 1, which equals 3. Down here we have A and B. A and B are in different quadrants, okay, which means we must add. So absolute value of -2 plus absolute value of 1 equals 2 plus 1, which equals 3. B and C is absolute value of -1 plus absolute value of 3, because B and C are both in different quadrants. And we get 1 plus 3, which is 4. And then the last step that we must do is add up this perimeter, right? So we have 3 plus 7 plus 6 plus 3 plus 3 again plus 4. You really need to make sure you add up the sides if you would like to write the length of each side down on paper. See how I labeled this as 3, put a 7 here, a 6 here. It's very faint. You can't see it very well, but if you were to label these right here, you would be able to make sure you added up every single side. And what we get here is 10 plus 9 plus 7. Once I add up these lengths in sets of 2, and that gets us 26 units. Okay, so this is how you would find the answer. It is very important that you take it one step at a time, because if you miss one side, or you add instead of subtracting or subtract instead of adding, you will not get the correct answer. So you really want to make sure that you have this down. And if you are doing it on grid paper, it is also easier to check by adding the sides, adding up the spaces between each point to make sure that you have the correct answer, whichever way works best for you.